Greetings, welcome to this course on Velocity's Vacant Cost Recovery Service. During this class, we will discuss the following: what VCR is, and how it will be helpful to your community; how VCR charges are calculated, and how we know which units to bill; the differences between daily and monthly VCR; the differences between manual, automatic, and automatic with limit approvals for daily VCR clients; the differences between billed and unbilled charges in your VCR queue; how to select unbilled charges and choose whether or not they should be billed; approving and rejecting billed charges for sites with manual and limit approvals; how to look up a resident's VCR bill in one site after it's been mailed. Finally, we will close this video with instructions on how to receive credit for taking the time to review this video. Pretend for a moment that you are the community manager for the estates at Brandywine. You've noticed that your electricity expenses are high, but you can't quite figure out where the amounts are going. In your property, when a new resident moves in, they're responsible for calling the local electric vendor and having the bill turned in their name. However, what you've determined is that some residents aren't calling the vendor, and the power they are using is being billed directly to your house accounts. This represents a capital loss for your community. How can you find a way to not only get the money back for your community, but how can you stop this from happening again? Velocity has a solution with Vacant Cost Recovery. Vacant Cost Recovery can help you identify units that consume utilities when the utility should be in the resident's name. Using a combination of your rent roll data and your unit bills, we can help you determine who is using utilities when they shouldn't be, and then bill them back for that usage. You may wonder how this could help your community. Why would you want to have VCR? A few reasons why can include returns. Studies show that you can collect, on average, $2.83 per unit per month with this program versus not having a program at all. Compliance. When your residents receive the bills for utility usage, it can include a penalty fee. They would then be incentivized to move the utilities they're responsible for into their name. And then collections. When violations do occur, Velocity makes the billing and mailing process as simple and efficient as possible, helping you to send bills to your residents more quickly and recover outlaid capital expenses more effectively. Let's take a moment and consider a simple example for a VCR bill. You are the manager of the estates at Brandywine. You have Velocity's invoice processing service, and you are using the daily VCR product. Your resident, James Logan, moved into Building 1, Unit 400, on August the 1st. You entered the leasing and rents information as part of the move-in process. As part of his lease agreement, James was required to transfer the electricity service into his name. In early September, Velocity received a bill from the City of Williamstown, your electricity vendor. The amount of the bill was $108.72. The dates of service were from August 1st to August 31st. Velocity takes the amount of the bill and determines a daily rate from this bill. In this case, the $108.72 bill has a 31-day cycle for a daily rate of $3.50, or 3.507. Velocity then compares the dates from your rent roll and sees that James moved in on the 1st and was also in the unit for 31 days. The system multiplies the daily rate of 3.507 by 31 days, bringing his amount to $108.717, or $108.72 rounded up. In another example, let's assume that James moved in on the 16th instead. The system is still able to calculate the amount James owes, which is now 15 days instead of the 31 days from our previous example. The system performs the same action, calculating 15 days times 3.507 for a total of $52.61 after rounding. There are two types of VCR, daily and monthly, and you can only have one of the two types. Daily vacant cost recovery is for our clients using the invoice processing service and one-site leasing and rents. The two services work together to automatically calculate any responsible charges and place them in the appropriate queues in OneSite on a daily basis. Monthly VCR performs the same basic actions as daily VCR. The service is reserved for clients who do not have invoice processing or do not have one-site leasing and rents. Bills are not generated automatically by our system, but are processed once a month as part of your pre-bill. Daily and monthly VCR do the same thing, but daily VCR can generate bills more quickly than monthly VCR, which can potentially improve your collection and response rates. First, let's look and see how to find the VCR tab in OneSite. Select Velocity from the Product Picker. Next, select Vacant Cost Recovery. Finally, select Pending Approvals to see the queues that you can work in your Vacant Cost Recovery tab. Within Daily VCR, there are three types of approvals that you can consider: manual, automatic, and automatic with limit. The three types of daily VCR are related to the level of control and convenience that you would prefer for your approvers. Manual sites have the highest level of control. The manager responsible for approving VCR bills will be required to review all of the available columns in the Daily VCR tab. This allows for greater levels of control, but requires the highest level of interaction by the approver. Automatic with limit is the middle ground. The property management company defines an amount for each site that a bill must exceed before it goes into the manual queue. For example, if the estates at Brandywine have a $50 limit, the system will automatically mail all bills below $50, and all bills above $50 will be treated like a manual site and sent to the Vacant Cost Recovery tab for review. Automatic sites require no manual approval. All bills generated by the system will be automatically mailed to the resident with no interaction required. Let's take a look at the billed queue. As you can see, Meadow Bay has charges in the high column. Click on the number below the high, medium, or low columns to review those charges. As you can see, this is an example for James Aaron's in the low billing queue. Starting with the left, the Select All option will allow you to either approve or reject the entire bill. The View button will show you what the information inside of the bill is, and we'll come back to that in just a moment. The area is the building number, the unit number, the resident's name, the resident's move-in date, the resident's move-out date, and the pending amount scheduled to be billed to the resident. Items that are not marked as responsible to the residents can show up in unbilled utilities as an extra hyperlink that you can review when necessary. If you provide your residents any form of grace period, whether it's a number of days after the date of move-in, or whether it's an amount, for example, any bill below $10 would not be sent to the resident, those can be filed under the unbilled grace amount category, and you'll be able to see those. Here is the date that the bill was generated for you to review, the number of occurrences, how many times has this happened with this resident, and the total cumulative amount. As you can see, the cumulative amount can be the amount of the pending, including unbilled and unbilled grace. Let's take a look at the actual bill to see more information. Within the actual bill, we see the site name, Villa Verona. We see the residence information. We see the current status of the bill pending approval, the date it was billed, the unit number, the account information, and again, pending approved and rejected amounts. The account information and pending amounts, and any amount that is approved or rejected. Now, you can approve all, similar to what you can in the previous table, or you can reject all. If you choose to reject charges or reject all bill at this point, please note that the bill has been generated by Velocity for your site. Therefore, your site will be charged for the service. You can also approve or reject individual items. For example, you can approve or reject the vacant cost recovery charge. This is the main charge. Note the move-in date for the resident, the daily rate as it's calculated, what days they're responsible for, the number of days they're responsible for, and the total amount. Below here you'll see the invoice ID that drives the charge from this vendor for this service period, their number of days, and the amount. Below that you'll see the vacant cost recovery fee. This is a penalty fee for the resident violating their lease. In most states it is allowed. In this case it's $25. We could individually reject this charge if we wanted to. Now, please note that you cannot reject the primary charge for the actual utility and still bill the secondary charge. If you choose to reject this charge here, the fee charge would automatically be rejected. So you can reject the fee and leave the VCR, or if you reject the VCR, you also reject the fee. If you want, you can see the invoice that actually drives this charge by clicking on the invoice hyperlink. It will pull up the actual invoice so that you can take a look at it, review it, make sure that it's accurate and correct. Once you've made your decision to either approve or reject, either individually or mass, the bill will be sent in the mail. No matter what version of VCR you have, approvers must manage their unbilled queue. Unbilled charges occur when velocity is determined that a unit has both occupancy and usage, but the lease is not marked as responsible to be billed for VCR. All items that have a charge but are not marked to be billed will be placed in an unbilled queue for review. Items that are placed in the unbilled queue can be marked as do not bill, and the site will not be charged for any service performed by Velocity. If the site determines that an unbilled charge should be billed, marking this item as billable will place it in the appropriate approval queue for your site. For manual, limit, and monthly sites, this means you will have to approve the amount to be billed, then approve the actual bill. When the system determines that a charge is assessed on a unit, it means it has a vendor bill and it shows that it is on a current unit. It will create a charge and show that charge. If the resident is not marked as responsible for that charge, they will fall into the unbilled category, as you see here. Clicking on the unbilled category will take you in and allow you to review items so that they can either be billed or not be billed. If you choose to bill an item from the unbilled queue by clicking the checkbox and clicking Bill Selected, the item will either be automatically approved if your site is auto approval, or it will be moved into the low, medium, or high queues if you are on the manual process or the automatic with limit process and your bill is greater than your limit amount. If you choose Do Not Bill Selected, the bill will be completely removed and you will not see it anymore. Please note that unlike the billed queue, if you do not bill selected from this table, it will not charge your site. A bill has not been generated at this point. The major thing that you need to look at in this area is, should the person that's in this list be charged for this service? Note the move-in and move-out dates and determine whether or not they should be charged. If they should, click the checkbox and click Bill Selected. If they shouldn't, click the checkbox and click Do Not Bill Selected. Note that if you click on the View button, you can go in and see what their bill will look like after you click the Bill Selected box. When a resident is marked as unbilled, the reason that they are marked as unbilled is because in almost all cases, the utility checkbox for the resident has not been selected. From this area, if we wanted to go and correct this for a resident, we would close out of the window that you see here, go to OneSite, and select the Residents tab. We would then search for the unit that we want, and find the resident that we want to change. In this case, we're going to use Misty Jones for our example. Click on the View button under Actions. From here, you can select the Edit button next to Lease Summary, or you can select the Edit button inside of the lease details. Either one, they do the same thing. Select the Edit button next to Lease Summary, and the lease information will load. Note the Utilities Paid by Resident section, and scroll down until you find the charge that you want to bill for. Note that this box is unchecked, which means that the system would be able to calculate the charge. However, essentially, you are telling the system, do not bill this person for vacant cost recovery. Click the checkbox, and you'll be prompted to enter a start date for the vacant recovery. Enter your start date, and click the OK button. Now, the system will know in the future to bill this charge or to not bill this charge. End by clicking the Save button. Now that we've covered the basics on how to handle VCR bills and the unbilled queues, let's talk about best practices for your site. Velocity recommends that you check your VCR at least once a day to confirm that there are no VCRs pending in any queue. For monthly VCR clients, you will need to review your VCR bills as part of your monthly pre-bill review process. A daily check is not required for the monthly VCR product. During your review process, check for new additions to your queue. It is best to work your unbilled queue first, since any approved items from the unbilled queue will then transfer to the billed queue. For manual or automatic with limit sites, after resolving your unbilled queue, you should work the billed queue and resolve any outstanding items. After resolving your queues, your residents' bills will be sent in the mail. Before we close this video, let's discuss your residents' bills. After you complete the approval process, a bill will be placed in the mail for your resident. This process usually takes no more than 3 business days to appear in your OneSite. In the Vacant Cost Recovery tab, you can look up your resident's bills by going to VCR Bill Lookup, searching for the resident by unit, name, or billed date, and there is also a site filter if your OneSite has the rights to switch between sites. Clicking View will show the resident invoice that was mailed, allowing you to print or email the bill. Clicking Approve will show you the details of the approval process, including the name of the person that approved the bill. This concludes a basic overview of the functionality of the daily VCR product. In this video, we provided you with an explanation of how VCR works, explained VCR calculations and how they are determined by velocity. We showed you the differences between daily and monthly VCR, and we described the differences between manual, automatic with limit, and limit in daily VCR. We explained why unbilled charges occur, and we showed you how to manage the unbilled queue. We also showed you how to manage resident utility checkboxes and where to look for resident statements after the bills have been mailed. Now finally, let's talk about how to get credit for reviewing this class. To receive credit for this class, please send an email to velocitytraining@realpage.com with answers to the following questions. If you have an unbilled VCR, where should you look to see if a lease is responsible for the utilities? There are 3 approval types for daily VCR. List 2 of the 3 types. How often should you check your VCR queue for daily VCR? Where will you find your VCR information if you have monthly VCR? And finally, what can we do to improve this video? If you have any comments or suggestions, we'd greatly appreciate them. This concludes this video for daily VCR. Thank you for watching.